Go for it.
Good morning and aloha, snack bar to all of you out there that are listening live. This one and only the Majestic Ape coming to you, the gorilla in the econo mist, and my main man, the denizen of the airwaves, the maven of broadcast, the one and only CJ, the uncanny one. And we are here breaking down the news, the reviews, and all the truth that need not be loose because we're gonna dispense it out to you like we're doing Footloose. I don't even know if I'm rhyming, CJ. I'm just going for it, bro. Just going
I like
for it.
Footloose. I like Footloose.
Anyway, guys, you can follow us on Twitter at the Rogue Money. Check us out on RogueMoney.net, where yours truly is so overdue to placing articles. And also check us out on our Facebook page. And if you're suffering from debt, if you're being crushed and harassed by creditors and collectors, contact myfreedomnow.us, myfreedomnow.us. With that being said, CJ, what is the latest, man? What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I was all pumped up from a very exciting first day on the Hill.
Oh
We
my
saw a
God.
lot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was an incredible first day. I mean, he accomplished more in one day than Obama did in 8 years.
Oh man. And this is day one with no paycheck. It's unreal. Unreal.
Day one. Day one.
And he hasn't even
Time to put
scheduled
America first.
he hasn't even scheduled a golf game or a vacation.
Imagine that. Imagine
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
I did see where the Obamas. Did you see who they jet set off with after
No,
leaving Palm Springs?
no.
Richard Branson on his plane. So they're still like taking handouts.
Oh, jeez.
They flew to his that island that he owns, and who knows what goes on there.
Yeah, right. I have no idea. You know,
I'm sure they're strategizing. They're strategizing for 2020.
they're strategizing for how to make Michelle into either a woman or they're strategizing on trying to have Michelle run as president. Which would be funny because the Clintons are scheming away too, man. Either they're scheming how to make a political comeback, or they're scheming about how the hell do we get out of this country, and is there any place on this planet where we can go where we won't get extradited? It's either one of those two things are going through their heads.
Exactly. Yep. How to counter the rise of nationalism.
Exactly, dude. Hey, man, why don't you go over what happened with with the executive orders that he just signed just yesterday, which are
Yeah.
monumental.
Right. Absolutely. So as you know, that Obama had specifically been working to cut the deal regarding the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And we all know that basically corroded our rights as citizens, gave away powers to foreign uncontrollable, secret courts that determine that if, let's say, for example, that one of the states decided that, hey, we're kicking GMOs out of our state, which
Right.
some legislation has been proposed. Well, what could happen is that this court, that company, Monsanto, Bayer, who or whatever they're titled nowadays, they received such a bad name they had to spin it off and sell it. They could go to this court through the TPP, and they could decide that, what, that's not an agreement. They could that company could actually sue the state for any type of lost profits, and then overturn so it really broke back the sovereignty of our republic. It truly did.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately the Republicans and Democrats pretty much gave on Obama, just open to go ahead and discuss it. And it's one of those things that was, we're not going to pass it till we know what's in it. They met behind closed doors to actually discuss the whys. Here at Rogue Money, we know why, but obviously. So anyway, he signed that. One of the other very exciting things that he did was to go ahead and reinstate the Mexico City policy dealing with non-governmental NGOs. So there for a long time, the U.S. would actually fund abortions through Planned Parenthood and other taxpayers. Yeah, taxpayer-funded abortions in other countries.
That just shows you the stupidity, and if that's not just waste, absolute waste. And first of all, Mexico City, the birth rate is through the roof. So for us to funding, abortion in other parts of the world where it's taxpayer money, that is waste. It's stupid. And anybody who says otherwise is a moron.
Yeah, there's really, there's no need. And obviously, I want access for women that if you're poor and you're impoverished and you need health care, that's a complete different story. But when you're openly just paying for abortions in other countries, that doesn't really make any sense at all. And then one of my favorites that he passed was an executive order on a complete freeze on federal workforce hiring, except the United States military. So that that sent shockwaves through DC. They're like, you mean I can't have my 32 aides that help me in this one department?
No more 76 or 72 personal assistants. Not happening.
Yeah, not happening. And again, that's just the start. There's some very exciting legislation that's in the pipeline. We're looking at the ban on the ability to go work and to do lobbying post leaving political office. I believe there's like a 8 or 10 year, I can't remember the amount of time period that you cannot go work as a lobbyist. So that's on the table. We also know there's the audit the Fed, which is a huge bill as well. So again, just lots of legislation that's in the pipeline that hopefully we can get passed. I would like for us to also pivot and see something to help all Americans, and that would be starting to take a hard look at these vaccines and these the GMOs that have been harming every human for quite a while. So, and I think he's putting some people in place to do that.
Absolutely, man. We cannot look. One of the things that he's put into his speech, that if nobody has a chance to read it or whatnot, he talked about hidden technology. He talks about suppressed technology. He gave some reference to that. Okay. And then, we've known that he is going to go after the pharmaceutical industry, especially repealing a lot of the crap with the vaccine, because one of the people that he hired is Robert Kennedy Jr., I think it was.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
Robert Kennedy Jr., who is somebody who is an absolute shark when it comes to going after the pharmaceutical companies and getting them to back off. Especially, I mean, he's an ardent supporter of vaccine rights for parents. He's an ardent supporter of holding these pharmaceutical companies absolutely accountable. You see, when a pharmaceutical company is accountable, if they do make a vaccine, they're going to test the holy hell out of it and make sure it don't kill nobody or has egregious side effects. They're not going to be pumping out willy-nilly, vaccines out of nowhere, pulled out of the sky, and be like, here you go. It's just not going to happen. So that's going to stop. Healthcare needs to be reformed. In order to make healthcare cheaper, how do you make healthcare cheaper? Well, number one, you got to open it up to the free market where you erase state lines so that insurers can compete and doctors can compete. But what you would also need to do is you need to make healthcare more preventative. The reason why so many other healthcare facility or healthcare plans and healthcare programs throughout the world in various other countries are successful, okay, especially there are models in emerging countries where they do things that is preventative. So that means you're going to get your fat ass to the gym. That means you're going to be working out. That means you're going to go on a diet. That means you're going to watch what you eat. You're going to be conscious. And for other people that are more astute, you're going to do whatever you can. You're going to be buying the right kind of supplements, the right kind of nutritional products that you need to stay alive, because that's what healthcare is all about. It should be preventative. Now, doctors, okay, doctors are great. Okay, at heroic intervention. They're great as when you're in a car accident, your life's on the line, you broke an arm, you have a severe terminal medical issue. Then you got to go see a doctor. But average everyday things like your cholesterol, your blood pressure, they are far out of touch. They don't have the education. Let me tell you something a little bit about doctor education. In Harvard, a Harvard-trained medical doctor has maybe one semester of nutrition. And it's a basic introductory course on nutrition. That's it. So they don't have it, and number one. Number two, whatever information they have is absolutely obsolete. If you're still in the camp of fats are bad, cholesterols are bad, blah 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 blah, you need to rethink your thinking. In other words, in order to be preventative, we need to be proactive. And I think we need a proactive citizenry in order for this to work. So Trump realizes this. That's the whole thing, CJ. It has to, things are going to change. And I think the cartel lock that the pharmaceutical industry and the American Medical Association had for quite some time will probably most likely come to an end.
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, V. And in particular, think of it this way, okay? We had a legislation less than, 2 years ago that wouldn't even allow proper labeling of food to identify if there were GMOs in it. They wouldn't allow it.
No.
I mean, how ridiculous is that? Do you not want to know what your food is made of?
Right. And if Monsanto, these guys were so damn confident in their product, right? If they're so damn confident in their product, they would label it genetically modified. You see, but they're not confident in their product. They know that in the marketplace of ideas, in the marketplace of choice, in a free market system, nobody would choose their stuff because it's garbage. Because they cannot be, or they can't in a public forum show the efficacy and safety of their product. They cannot even stand on that confidence. They can't do it. They can't do it. They cannot adequately explain to the public, hey, this is a genetically modified apple. Now, you might freak out, but we didn't cut this with any genes. We just, took out XYZ components, and that's how we modified it. Or this is a genetically modified lemon, or whatnot. No, they know that what they've done, they have nowhere near. Just like the pharmaceutical industry, they are hoping. And again, this is how we know we're living in a cartelism, not capitalism. Monsanto, just like the pharmaceutical industry, has paid off its lobbyists to pay off politicians to allow this type of charade to happen. So we are in a game of favors. We're not competing in a forum of ideas, but we are competing in a forum of favors where he who has access to the printing press, like say the Federal Reserve, he who has access to the right regulators is the one who controls and dominates the market. That's what's going on. So Monsanto relies on the fact that it can buy crony politicians and they can go ahead and pass these retarded bills because their products simply cannot compete. They cannot effectively, they cannot succinctly and clearly defend what they produce, CJ, and that goes for the pharmaceutical industry as well. It is an atrocious joke. If we're talking about real health and real health initiatives, it has to be preventative, and it has to mean curtailing medications, curtailing genetically modified organisms. Now there are some people out there, oh my God, V said, curtailing medications. My grandmother's on 15 different meds. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you as the average American needs to get off your lazy ass and start learning, start getting yourself educated on the very basics of how health and nutrition works. Now, I'm not talking about the stupid food guide pyramid, which is absolutely erroneous. It's basically set up by who's the highest bidder and who's the highest lobbyist who can pay the most in what industry, but real health. And there's a billion things on YouTube and on Google and book-wise on Amazon that you can get for that. Find something that works for you. That's what I'm saying, CJ.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it because in particular, one of the things you said as far as preventive medicine, right?
Yeah.
And one of the best things to that is eating properly. It was very interesting. Last week, I was reading an article that detailed out, SNAP benefits, which is the food program in place to help the poor. Do you want to know what the number one item that was purchased using SNAP benefits was, V? Soda, right?
Yep.
So right there, that kind of leads you into the death spiral. We start giving our kids the soda at a young age, and that just leads to a lot of other health complications down the road. So you nailed it. One of the other really cool things, and we'll try to maybe get her scheduled for an interview, but we detailed last week, well, anyway, Don Wettrick did, regarding this student that went to the SNAP benefits coordinator and said, hey, I'd like to find a way for SNAP benefits to these fresh markets and buy fresh produce and everything, and right now they can't.
Right.
And she designed a way to do it. So those types of programs are needed. But anyway, yeah, sorry we went way off on that, but it was just something that I felt that needed to be discussed because it's not talked about enough. Is that all we talk about is a problem, that everyone needs healthcare. We talk about the problems that how do we fix it, but we don't go to the underlying things, and we just accomplish that right here.
Well, absolutely, man. And the whole thing is that when you look at the whole SNAP benefits program, you look at the fact that people eat poorly, you look at the healthcare, it's an economic issue. We spend more money on healthcare, per capita than any other country on the planet. And we have one of the most unhealthiest populations. We have absolute crap in terms of healthcare. Absolute crap. Now you might say, "Well, V, if I wanted a surgery, I don't have to wait online." Again, my point is not advocating socialized medicine. My point is not talking about you getting surgery. My point is health care, not disease care. If you think you waiting online to get a surgery is healthcare, no, it's that's disease care. In other words, what you're saying is that you're waiting for a heart transplant because what the hell did you do to your body that you ate in such a way that all of a sudden you had a heart attack and then you realized you had a body? Like, what were you doing? You get what I'm saying? Now there are people that suffer from various cancers. I've in past broadcasts described how to beat cancer, what cancer really is, and I had somebody who was an actual freaking doctor, who's a cancer researcher, who's in cancer research, leave a comment for me. Holy crap, man! The way what you described about cancer is absolutely 1,000%. That's what we're researching now. Okay, so you have to understand there are certain mystifications that have huge economic ramifications, and we're one of the programs out there that discusses every aspect of it. So you're gonna get the whole full plethora of stuff of what's going on with us. Okay, and that being said, also CJ, I don't know, man. Maybe one day we're gonna launch the Rogue Health channel. Who knows?
Yeah, we should.
We should.
Alternative health, yeah, because there's not enough. It's not advertised because the MSM won't allow that type of advertisement, on the TV, and there's not enough health programs that detail that out. That's great point.
1,000%. And when I look at most guys, man, I'll tell you right now, I've sat there and I've been out of the fitness game for a while. For those that don't know, I was when I was in college, the way I worked through college was I worked as a certified personal trainer with the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Then I eventually became somebody who was teaching continuing education credits towards 2 personal trainers, physical therapists, nutritionists, this, that, and the other. That's how I, worked my way through school. So one of the things, and my undergrad was in clinical nutrition. So one of the things that astounds me is like I go on YouTube and I check out a lot of the top YouTube fitness people that are on it's horse shit. These guys are talking like bro science, just like dumb crap. Like and I'm watching these guys. They're like, now if you wanna bulk your biceps, you wanna do a curl this way. Now this is for bulking exercises, and this is for shaping exercises. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, you stupid moron, you uneducated retard. Your muscle works on a principle called all or nothing. It's either all the fibers will fire or none of the fibers will fire. That's just the way it is. So
right.
There's no such thing as bulking exercises and shaping exercises. That is horse crap. Yeah.
It's in regards to your background, I think I knew that a little bit, but it's funny you say that because mine was in athletic training. So
Dude, we should
my minor. We should. And the thing, here's the thing I love it when somebody will post something on Facebook or social media that it's my first day in the gym and they have this athletic trainer that's having them do deadlifts.
Yeah, with horrendous form. And I'm watching. You know what makes me cringe? You ever seen CrossFitters? Oh my god, I cringe. No. I cringe. I'm like, your orthopedic surgeon must love you. And I'm watching like the there's one YouTuber I watch because he's freaking hilarious. I think it's called Elgin Intensity. And Elgin's hilarious, man. He's a lawyer. He's an attorney by trade, but he's also a fitness buff. But he has he works out. He's a power lifter, strict form, the whole 9 yards. And I'm a former power lifter myself, so I'm watching these CrossFitters. These guys are doing deadlifts, CJ, with like curved back. I mean, their backs are curved like a cat. Like a cat rears out like, yeah. With a cat. Yeah, they're like deadlifting like that. I'm like watching. I'm like, oh my god, his L1 and his L5 are like about to burst out of his back. I'm like, oh my god, and they're horrible form. I mean, the squats are disgusting. It just horrendous, CJ, just horrendous. And I'm like watching this terrible form, and people are like, oh, I'm doing CrossFit. I'm like, yeah, let's see how long you do it. It's ridiculous, man.
It is.
And that's nothing. Oh, it's my first day back. Here, have a deadlift. Oh, you're doing great. And the person's like, oh my god, they got all sorts of muscular imbalances.
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
Absolutely, they got all sorts of muscular imbalances. Their anatomy's way off. And they're making them like go do deadlifts in the gym. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, how many times I've seen, most personal trainers, like I call them physical therapists gone retarded. because they have no idea of kinesiology. They have no idea of origin, insertion, and range of motion. So they're out there like somebody has like an impinged rotator cuff, and the person's making them do bench presses. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
god!
yeah,
And make sure
exactly.
you come down and hit your chest. But it hurts my shoulder. Of course, it hurts the shoulder. He's an external rotation on his rotator cuff. Of course, it's hurting his shoulder. Unreal. Anyway, that
No.
future.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we got a little
We're
tangent.
gonna
That's
do it.
okay.
We'll do
Yeah,
it.
and then just yeah, we'll definitely do that. And then real quick, I want to call out a couple of clowns in DC right now, V. And can you imagine that we're living in an era where the MSM is saying that having a good negotiation, having a good relationship with Russia is a bad thing?
You know, these people are pushing that bullshit narrative, okay, about, this whole Cold War. What did James say? SJW, Russophobes or something?
Yes,
Yeah,
Russophones.
yeah, SJW Russophobes. And these people are stupid. This is not the Cold War. Okay, Russia is not a communist country. It's easier for us, CJ, to go to Russia and start a business and be widely successful at it than it is for us to even start a business here. Okay, very very difficult. There's regulations, there's taxes. I mean, it's absolutely preposterous. So number one, number two, Russia is a revitalized nuclear superpower. Why on God's green earth do you not want to have dialogue? You see, these idiots, the leftists scream dialogue when past neocon and neo-lib administrations wanted to go bomb a country like Libya or Syria or go invade Iraq. They want, all of a sudden, the libtards want dialogue. Oh, we want dialogue. We want you to talk to them. Make love, not war. But all of a sudden, Trump wants to have dialogue, not with some puny third world country that we can, take, that we can, blow into the Stone Age in a matter of days, but an actual superpower who has a better nuclear capability than we do, who can wipe us off the face of the planet. Okay, if you don't believe that, I mean, you should check out the Sarmat 18. One of those missiles can take out, or I mean, NATO's designation is called Satan. That's the name of the missile. NATO calls it Satan because one Sarmat missile can take out the state of Texas. Just one. Just one. Not like our nuke, CJ, where like we have this new Trident nuclear missile that can take out half the island of Manhattan. Well, that's nice. The Russians have one missile that can take out the state of Texas, or it can take out the entire country of France. So why not have a dialogue with these guys? Especially when these guys, their leadership has been very patient. Their leadership has been very forthright. They've been very, very generous and gracious in order to wanting to speak with us, in order to give us a chance. Okay, because I tell you right now, election night, Putin's finger was hovering over that red button. He wanted to know who the hell was going to win. Okay, and if it was Hillary, we'd be in the thick of things right now. All right, so
absolutely,
the whole thing is this. So of course these SJWs don't do that because they believe they're retarded media. They believe in their retarded legacy media and these far leftist boards who are absolutely adept. Look, mainstream media has no clue of foreign policy. They have no clue of what's going on in the rest of the world. Alt media is maybe slightly somewhat better. There's, like I said, with the broadcast with London Paul, there's only a handful of outlets where you're going to get the entire geopolitical play-by-play. Serious Report, Rogue Money is one of them. Period. Okay? Now, so these SJWs, these social justice warriors, do not want us to communicate because they haven't been informed. They haven't been told what is up. Now oh my God, you're talking with Russia. Wait, so talking with the leaders of Iraq before we invaded, that was a good thing in your book. Talking with the leaders of Libya, talking with the people in Syria, talking with any other escapade we've done in the last 50 years. In your book, oh leftists, you cognitively dissonant leftists, was a good idea. But all of a sudden, we want to talk to another superpower and probably avert any more beef and tension. And that's a bad idea in your book because you guys are all about tolerance and talking things out. You fakers, you fifth column fakers. All they're doing, CJ, is they are painting bigger bullseyes on themselves. Ridiculous.
Well said. Well said. And now it's not only the SJW's view, but we also have John in the insane and membrane McCain and Charles Chuck E. Cheese Schumer, have submitted legislation that would make it impossible for President Trump to lift sanctions on Russia without congressional approval. just incredible. They are just so disconnected from reality, and it's good to see that that they're doing this. Actually, it's coming to life. It's sharing who they truly are. That they are truly not American patriots. They're globalists. They are people who align themselves around the elitists who think that they know the best for humanity, and they need to be called out for it.
1,000%, man. 1,000%. In Cat in the Hat, we had this thing called, they're called Thing 1 and Thing 2. And that is exactly what John McCain and Chuck E. Cheese Schumer is. It's instead of Thing 1 and Thing 2, it's Asshole 1 and Asshole 2. This asshole just gets up in the morning. He just cannot help himself but be an asshole. Like, when are you people in the state of Arizona going to get rid of this guy? Like, when? I mean, what is wrong with you guys down there? Like, this guy's got to go. This guy's criminally a nut job. And my question is, where is his girlfriend? Where's Lindsey Graham? Where's Mrs. John McCain? Lindsey Graham? I'm waiting for him to jump on this. For him to all of a sudden jump in bed with Chuck E. Cheese Schumer? Like, what the hell's going on? That bill will not get through Congress. And I'm telling you right now, they're going to find a very rude awakening because, it's not going to get through, and it will be defeated. But the attempt, this incessant desire by people like McCain to sabotage, what is it about them that they cannot help themselves? What is it about them that they have this drive to sabotage things? I mean, dude, he just wakes up with it. I'm an asshole. I'm just going to be an asshole. I'm going to make it difficult for Trump. Like, why? Why? John McCain, this guy is supposedly a prisoner of war, right? Supposedly he suffered in Hanoi, in the Hanoi Hilton. It's a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then the last bill that I want to touch base on, and this is probably my favorite for so many different reasons, but there's a bill proposed by Representative Mike Rogers entitled the American Sovereignty Restoration Act of 2017, which seeks a complete U.S. withdrawal from the UN.
Yeah.
And the international body removed its headquarters from New York, and that all the participation be seized from the WHO, the World Health Organization, as well. So, and why this hits home to me is because I am just so sick of the story after story of these UN interventions of going in, and we find out a few months after about the rape, the torture, the human trafficking, and the UN sits there and does nothing about it. So good riddance. If we leave the UN, it's dead anyway. The UN isn't really the UN; it's mostly the United States. So I hope this bill gets passed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because my whole thing is like Roger said it best. He goes, "Why should the American taxpayer bankroll an international organization that works against America's interests around the world? The time is now to restore and protect American sovereignty and get out of the United Nations." That's exactly what we need to do. He says, "I dislike paying for something that two-bit third world countries with no freedom attack us and complain about the United States. There's a lot of reasons why I don't like the UN, and I think I'd be happy to dissolve it." And this guy's absolutely right. The UN continues to prove it's an inefficient bureaucracy and a complete waste of American tax dollars. Why are we paying for these idiots? Like, why? Like, why? It makes no sense. I mean, the UN is nothing but a cabalist arm for narco trafficking, human trafficking, and all sorts of malaise and mayhem. That's it. It's got to go.
Yeah.
If we're serious about taking out globalization, we need to kill the UN. We don't need them anymore. They're obsolete.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's going on in India?
Man, I don't know what to believe anymore, CJ. I mean, what's going on over there it's beyond me. Is Modi a plant? Is he not a plant? Is he a stooge? Is he not a stooge? Is he a demagogue? Is he a hero? Like, what is this guy? Like, what the hell is going on? This is a vibrant economy, a fast developing country with a very educated population. So now it's saying that India's downward spiral accelerates, and this is didn't we you and I say this, CJ? He said we both says there's a possibility that people could be starving to death over there because of this whole entire change of currencies and whatnot. So it says here, this is by I think an Indian writer, Jayant Bandari, via actingman.com. It says India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced on the 8th of November. We all know about how he dismissed the 500 1,000 rupee notes. Suddenly, this despondency is visible in the old man's. Okay, picture of the old man. What is he saying? Oppression, exploitation, extreme stress, and resulting of millions of untimely deaths every year possibly make the story of the post-independent India one of the biggest crimes against humanity, unless it's getting worse. As explored in earlier updates, Indian institutions were designed to be run by the British. With them no longer at the helm, these institutions have mutated over the last 70 years to accommodate the underlying irrationality, tribalism, and superstitions of India. This is exactly what the beauty of Western government. If you don't have an appreciation for Western culture, if you're somebody who is a son or daughter of the West, I want you to just go to the mirror or take a selfie and kiss yourself and be thankful to God that you were born in a westernized country. And when the westernized countries where we are governed, people, by rationality and logic. Rationality and logic. And look, I'm somebody who's traveled through Southeast Asia. I can tell you that tribalism and superstitions abound. Okay, that is one of the biggest caveats. It's one of the biggest Achilles heels for some of these countries from progressing. And what happens is you have big bloated bureaucracies with 1,000 people, with 1,000 perspectives on 1,000 ways of doing things, with 1,000 prejudices, and you have no sort of forward momentum. Okay, so that being said, they have slowly but surely crumbled away, decaying and becoming degraded. Indian democracy today is simply mob rule. Its educational system little but propaganda. Its citizens are mere cogs in the service of the state. Indian institutions, including the Supreme Court, far from independent. Yeah, they are yes men to India's prime minister, the demagogue Narendra Modi. India never properly assimilated the concepts of reason, liberty, or individuality. When these concepts were offered by Europeans free of cost on a plate, Indians completely failed to take notice of them. All they saw and copied was a facade of Western lifestyle, clothing, music, cinema, food, etc. Under Modi, India. See, this is what I'm saying, guys. That just because something looks westernized, because you know what, they got a pair of Nike Air Jordans on, or they're eating a Big Mac, and they got an iPhone in their pocket, doesn't mean that they're westernized. Being Western, guys, is an ideal that we have been taken for granted. Being American is an ideal we've taken for granted for far too long. And I hope that in 2017 we reclaim our birthright as Americans and understand the beauty, the wonderful beauty of being American. Under Modi, India's degradation has picked up pace. Today, the country is full-fledged banana republic. I agree with that. However, all this had to happen eventually, with or without Modi. India is fated to disintegrate into tribal fiefdoms at some point. This is the direction it has embarked on. All this can be said to apply to almost every country in South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. What has slightly differentiated India, at least in the eyes of the international media, if not in reality, was the possibility of free speech at the margin. India's diversity and the internal conflicts resulting from it delayed the onset of full-fledged institutional totalitarianism. Alas, rising Hindu nationalism is now rapidly weaving these heterogeneous groups of people into a totalitarian whole. And now India is rapidly losing one of the most important institutions introduced by the British, which is freedom of speech. Very, very interesting. I mean, this article goes on and on and on. There are significant problems. You see, one of the things, guys, what we're seeing here is a balkanization of a country. This is a country with you go to India, you think it's, if you haven't traveled there or any parts of the Southeast Asia, you might think this is a very homogeneous population. It really isn't. You have 1,000,001 religions. You have 1,001 languages. You have so many thousands of different dialects, various customs. Each state in India has its own customs, its own culture, its own language. Okay, there's no cohesiveness. there is somewhat of a national identity. They understand that Hindi is the national language and this, that, and the other. But how many people actually can speak it fluently? It's very it's not a large majority outside of its major population centers. This is a problem. You have, even though these large cities and whatnot, an educational class, a well-to-do class, outside, like I said, 50% of the country is at absolute total backwater. How are they going to pull this off? And then this whole digital payment bullcrap that they're trying to pull through, CJ, it's a nut job. So we're seeing, it's concerning to me because this is a country that is originally one of the founding members of the BRICS. So it's very disconcerting to me.
Right.
Already we know that there was problems with Brazil, with Dilma Rousseff being overthrown. We know there's issues in South Africa, and now with India being self-emulating, as I'd say, 2017 remains a mystery. Will India even survive 2017 intact, or what type of social upheavals? There's nobody there to put a stop to this absolute, macabre BS, bro.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And we detailed this a while back, B, that I could see them coming out of Davos a couple of years ago saying, hey, eventually, we need to go ahead and kill all currencies, bring real cash in, move to a cashless society. V, you remember, back in February of 2016, they kind of put this out in the United States as far as, CNN reported on it, the Washington Post, about, it's time to kill the $100 bill. It's time to kill the $50 bill. It never gained any traction, or people were like, what the hell are you talking about, right? They're like, you better back away from my cash, right? So I look at India as a pilot. I truly believe that they use this as a pilot to reel the cash in. Bank bail-ins are very unfavorable. Negative interest rates are very unfavorable. So this was one way of the government trying to capture cash and bring some inflow into there. So they brought all this denominations back into their banking system. And then they said, after that, they said, guess what? We're going to limit you to no more than $200 that you can take out an ATM. And this complete raised havoc in India, in part because you were exactly right that a lot of them didn't have access to banks. A lot of them didn't have banking accounts. A lot of them dealt with cash on hand exchanges. Mm-hmm. So now you have people that are looting or rioting. They're attempting to get into the banks to get the money. So this test was an absolute failure, and I don't know why India bought into it. I know that we have a lot of service-based jobs over there. If you think of all the telemarketing and all the off hours in the U.S., I mean, I can't remember the last time I've called a telephone customer service after 5 p.m. and it doesn't automatically get directed to India. Right. So I'm sure that's part of it. The amount of that they help us with that factor. But again, just falling back to, I think what the plan was, let's do that as a pilot. Let's see exactly what happens so that we can, and we didn't want it to happen here in the United States. You imagine this happening here in the US. But again, people cannot be completely blindsided by the fact that this is potentially what they're trying to accomplish here in the US in regards to the cash. They want to get cash out of the system. They want us to move to a completely manipulated electronic currency that they can manipulate. There's no, and again, the paper dollar anyway, pretty much, we're going to discuss it here later on how overinflated it is right now. But again, that's just how I looked at India. I just really looked at it as more of a pilot to see how this would go over.
Yeah, and you know what? Very well said. I agree with you 1000%. The funniest thing is though, CJ, is if you want to run an efficient, eliminate cash and switch over to the digital type system where it's all digital currency, a country to be doing that in would be like a Western country where you have, you have a great deal of people that have access to modern banking. Number one, where, like, I'll be honest with you, like if somebody said, okay, we're going to eliminate the $100 note, like with Larry Summers, right? He wants to eliminate the $100 bill. Let's just put that you're gonna have a little bit of disruptions, but people will get on. It's not going to be a huge blow. No one's going to starve to death on the streets in the United States if somebody were to do that. It will be disruptive, yes. Will it be a temporary inconvenience? Yes. But we have the infrastructure in place that we can absorb a blow like that versus a country like India, where it's like 90% cash-based economy. You remove 500 and 1,000, and you want to replace it with notes, and then you want to crack down on this, but then you want to limit those notes and this, that, and the other. You've made it extremely difficult for people to have access to cash. Makes it extremely difficult for people to sell their wares. A lot of these farmers depend on being able to get to the market and sell their food items and their vegetables and their fruits. These IT companies, these guys are worried about getting paid, or how they're going to pay their employees, how they're going to. It's basically the lower rung of the Indian economy, which is the majority of them. These are the cogs. These are the everyday people the politicians like Modi overlook. Okay, but yet they like to claim their altruism too. Every time they speak about all their inflated platitudes about all the wonderful things they're going to do, they always mention the people. But they neglect the people. These are the people that are absolutely steamrolled and run over on a daily basis. They forget them. And it's those people, CJ, that are going to suffer. Will we see mass starvation soon? I think it's going to be, I think it might happen, CJ. This is very bad. I think it might happen. So let's wait and see. I mean, so all we can do is monitor the situation.
Yeah, the other thing I encourage people to do, if you want to see as far as the demand for cash and how it works, you can't do this in the suburbs. But I encourage, if you ever want to see what the banking system looks like, is I challenge you, go into an urban area. Go into an urban area on the 1st and the 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
And look at the amount of cash outflows that these banks have. Even though these people get, their government benefits, on either a debit card or the government card, a certain amount of, in particular, urban population are still adamant about coming in and take everything out, but leave $1 in. So they basically wipe their entire account. They want that cash in their hand. They want that money.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Again, this would be, so I agree with you. I think that you could test this in certain markets, but as far as the urban population, there would be riots in the streets if you said that you could not have access to your entire disability or government benefit check.
Oh, 1,000%, man, 1,000%. Because when you look at like in New York, as soon as the benefits checks come in or they get loaded onto the card, these guys are making a beeline to the bodega. They're taking out as much cash as possible because they need to buy their their cigarettes, their sodas, their whatnot, and their junk food or what have you, or just need cash to operate because they take that cash out, and a lot of times it means that cash pays for public transportation. That cash can pay for a cab.
Yeah, or get it out of the criminal banking system.
Right, 1,000%. Like, what are these people going to? It's vital. Look at it. If you come to New York, also, there's about 11. I'd say about 11% of New York Manhattan businesses are dependent on cash. You look at the street vendors. Now, you might say to yourself, "Oh, this is a street vendor." Well, let me tell you, look, there are street vendors that I know of that are making millions of dollars a month standing on that street corner, and it's a cash business, man. It's an all cash business. Like I always encourage anybody, you want to see what a street vendor is all about, go to 56th and 3rd. I'm sorry, 53rd and 6th Avenue, on a Friday night, and you'll see a line out the block, everybody waiting for chicken and rice. I'm telling you right now, it's absolutely insane, okay? It just shows you. And an operation like that, you see the amount of people, it's like, $5, $6 a plate, thousands of people every freaking day. These guys are making like, $5, $7 million a month. All cash. So you have a war on cash, you're going to affect businesses such as that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was hilarious. I don't know whether it was done as a joke or not, but I had a friend that messaged me that when they logged onto their platform at work, that it probably, I think it was a joke, whatever. But anyway, there, as you log onto a PC on a, internal net system, there's an authentication of the computer to verify that it belongs on the network, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, they named the internal network as it launched. It launches, and the authentication is called Global Currency 2017.
Wow.
Is the name of the network.
Wow, that's weird. And that's JPM, huh?
I think so. Yes.
Interesting. Speaking about currency, man, what's going on with the dollar?
Yeah, so and again, as a lot of people can imagine that the dollar in terms of the overvalue, a lot of currencies are falling. So in other countries, so a lot of people will flock to the U.S. dollar. But this article comes to us from Sovereign, just kind of equating that in September 1986, the Economist weekly newspaper published the first ever Big Mac index.
Oh yes.
So in a way, it was a lighthearted effort to kind of gauge, foreign currencies. If you think of the Big Mac in general, you're talking about two beef patties and their special sauce, which by the way is very good for some reason. I
I do
cannot
love
turn
their
down
special sauce.
I cannot turn down the Big Mac when at McDonald's. I don't know what it
Dude,
is.
speaking of Big Macs, did you hear about they just launched a new one? Talking about MAGA here, They
No.
launched the Grand Mac. It is a bigger Big Mac. It is 100% beef, bro.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, McDonald's is trying to pivot real hard to get back to health because they've been slammed so much the last several years, and their revenues have been missing. So it
Yeah.
good for them if they're moving to healthier foods. Then great for them. So anyway, basically what this does is it kind of benchmarks the price of a Big Mac in certain countries, thinking that it should be equivalent in certain areas. So for example, it maps out that in Mexico, you can buy a Big Mac for 49 pesos, and that's about the equivalent exchange rate of $2.23 in US dollars.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, in Switzerland, a Big Mac sells for $6.50 francs, or roughly $6.35. So if you benchmark that, versus Mexico versus Switzerland, obviously, you can't compare them apples for apples. But this means that there's a lot of difference in terms of the price, over 2.5 times, which is clearly excessive, just kind of suggesting that the Mexican peso is undervalued. And then obviously, and then it shows the U.S. dollar is currently overvalued against almost every currency in the world. So when you benchmark that against Canada, Russia, UK, South Africa, Turkey, Poland, Philippines, Euro, Australia, the average price of the Big Mac in these countries is dramatically cheaper than in the United States.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the Economist data shows, for example, that the average Big Mac price in the U.S. is $5.06. By the way, that is 17% higher than the average U.S. price of $4.37 that the newspapers reported in 2013. Now, this report, what I like about it, it does kind of benchmark around the dollar and how much it's overhedged and everything. The other challenge that I want to kind of throw out there that's kind of off topic a little bit, V, is and where they've hidden inflation. And do this test yourself, but you'll notice, because consumers are not that savvy overall. Yeah, they look for the good deals and everything, but if you have noticed in grocery stores, even in restaurants, what they have systematically done behind the scenes is start shrinking the package sizing and then also the sizes of the items that they're distributing instead of raising the prices.
Hmm.
So your dollar is not purchasing more; it's purchasing a lot less.
Oh yeah.
So
1,000.
yeah, and again, do that test yourself. So again, the fact that the dollar is overvalued isn't some big prize. It's an obvious indication that America and the dollar is still king of the economy. However, it's also a bubble.
Yeah.
It's also a bubble. And just like the stocks and the bonds, currencies can be a bubble. This article goes on to say, you may remember that the dot-com bubble of 1990, when the stock prices of laughable websites like pets.com, you
Oh
mapped that out before, V,
yeah.
they soared,
Mothernature.com.
soared to unimaginable heights, as well as all bubbles that eventually burst and stock prices crashed. The US dollar has been a bubble for more than 2 years. Yes, there are clearly a number of fundamental differences between the United States and other countries that would lead to natural exchange rate imbalances. But again, we're talking about the U.S. dollar being overvalued by 5% or 10%. We're talking about extreme differences that are completely irrational, and it's just not the Big Macs either. So it goes over to talk about the U.S. dollar index. So good article. It kind of maps that out in terms of the amount of paper we've been printing and how much that the dollar is overinflated right now. Because you always hear that argument that, oh, well, the dollar is very strong right now. Well, yeah, but it's just because other currencies are just so weak.
Absolutely. 1,000%, man. And one of the things that I've been highlighting, and a few others have been highlighting since it's at least 2013. We've been talking about, and I coined the term monetary hypoxia, where the dollar's going to be taken higher and higher and higher and higher until it just runs out of oxygen and implodes. That's exactly what I see happening, man. I think it's going to go higher and higher and higher because look, Trump needs to fix the economy, but he also understands there's a massive bubble in the economy. It needs to be popped. You know, there's some strong medicine, but before you pop it, you got to have some infrastructure in place. You got to have a physical economy running. Otherwise, what are you transitioning? When you burst the fake economy, when you burst the bubble economy, and if you got nothing set up, what do you transition to? You're going to transition into absolute bedlam and chaos. We don't want that. This is why the importance is that he's rapidly industrializing the United States again. He's rapidly, getting the jobs, the deals, everything lined up. So when this thing goes pop, and the market is not going to go for a massive crash, but a massive correction that needs to be done, and there's going to be some disruptions along the way. We will have a physical economy in place to help us to recover, and it's so vital that we do this. So yeah, it makes sense, man.
Yeah, and it's consistent. It's it's just not us stating it. It's just a matter of fact. You see a lot of it kind of, right now in terms of Trump coming into play is that they'll be quick to blame it on Trump regarding the dollar's demise, but us here in the truth media know that that's not accurate. This is every number, whether you're looking at the home sales that are being purchased by foreign governments, by the banks, in blocks, whether it's the unemployment rate. There's just so much bogus numbers out there right now, and unfortunately somebody has to bring it to reality, and that's what's going to happen. And there will be some growing pains through that. But if you look at the bubbles that are happening right now, you see the student loan bubble, over $1 trillion in student loans that people are defaulting on a massive rate. If you look what's happening V right now, what's with lease returns and used cars and the auto industry.
Yeah.
If you want to map that out for us, what's going on there?
It's what's happening is pretty interesting. Like we all know that auto sales have been in a complete dearth. Okay, now it says we've been talking about it for months. We've been warning about it, and a lot of the subprime auto securitizations, okay, which are so reliant on these subprime auto loans being out there. It's kind of like subprime mortgages. Okay, we have overloaded the system with subprime vehicle loans. And what is occurring is that's an issue. Now, what's also happening is a lot of people are not buying new cars. A lot of people who are leasing vehicles, okay, are going to be returning them at an alarming rate. It is massive, okay. And when they do return it, it's going to be a big problem. Now, here's the deal. For months, it says right here, it says, while it's always difficult to predict the exact timing of when bubbles will burst, a combination of record high lease returns in 2017 and 2018 combined with rising interest rate could imply that the auto bubble is on the precipice. As Bloomberg recently pointed out, strong used car pricing is a critical component required to prop up the overall auto market. While Americans love their brand new cars, if used car prices become too soft, then substitution can hurt new car sales. And to that, the impact of falling residual values on the finance arms of the auto OEMs. And you have all the ingredients required for an auto market meltdown. And which is pretty interesting, man, because, also came out news that Walmart is going to be getting into auto sales. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did see that. It'll be interesting to see whether it's used or new cars. I imagine it'll be used.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm never a fan of buying new cars. I think it's stupid. Why would you want to buy a new car and then get like 40% of the depreciation the first year? Like, who the hell wants to deal with that? I like getting a car that's slightly used, low miles, great condition, one owner, Carfax certified, no accidents, stuff like that. But yeah, used car prices are rising, man. I'm always looking around, certain cars that I like. I always keep a price on fluctuations. I have my own index. There's certain, European soon to be future classics that I like to keep a price on. See if they dip low and try to buy it when it's really low, and then ride up the appreciation. But for most cars that don't have that type of a market, I mean, you're doomed, man. I mean, it's like, why buy a $30,000 Ford for $600 a month when you can buy a $40,000 BMW for 560? You can afford it so long as you can cover the monthly payment, right? Not
Right, right.
surprisingly, these dynamics has caused lease shares of U.S. vehicles to skyrocket in the wake of the Great Recession as people seek to maintain their excessive lifestyles on smaller budgets. Of course, the problem is that leased vehicles get returned to their originating lenders every 3 years for brand new leases. Now, we wouldn't want anyone driving around in a 5-year-old clunker now, would we? But as we all know, vehicles have useful lives of 15 to 20 years, therefore, and sometimes more. Uh, Therefore, it doesn't take too many excessive lease cycles to flood the market with a used supply and bring the whole Ponzi scheme crushing down. And that's exactly what's happening. You have more and more lease returns. It's flooding the used car markets. Why buy a new car? I mean, the used cars are turning out to be a huge boon. So many issues, CJ. So many issues with the marketplace, and that's just automobiles, man. That's not even touching on mortgages or anything else, bro.
No, it's not. It's not, and it makes a lot of sense if you think of, I always used to watch those advertisements on TV, right? So, BMW, Mercedes, whatever will advertise, hey, look, you can step into a brand new Mercedes, and we're not going to require any type of deposit, any type of security deposit. You can drive out with a $400 a month lease payment, where
Yeah.
traditionally that car would be like $800 a month, right? Well, this makes absolute sense that that these lease vehicles are coming back in, and people are like, well, what if I want to buy it? Well, if you want to buy it, we can go ahead and finance you for another 5 years, and your payment's going to be 585. And they're like, well, wait a minute, I was only paying 400 for 3 years. I'm not going to do
Right.
that. So,
Right.
and again, it just falls back to the amount of leased vehicles that are going to be coming back in. So it makes sense that Walmart may be getting in that market. Walmart be able to bring those leased vehicles that are being returned that there's no market for, and buy them significantly, discount them, and possibly turn them for a profit.
Oh, absolutely, man. I think that's exactly what we're going to do. They're going to be doing stuff like what CarMax is doing, and probably taking on CarMax. I mean, CarMax is one of the few auto dealerships that are doing quite well because, I mean, they sell used vehicles that are in great condition and they sell it with a warranty. So, that's a big thing, man. That's a huge
And,
thing. So
and
definitely,
Walmart's so big, they can probably do their own financing.
yeah, yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. They could probably do their own financing and and get it all done with, man. It's very, very, very possible. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Should we talk about our boy Trey Gowdy real quick?
Yeah, buddy. What's going on with Trey?
Well, it's just amazing. When you look at Trey and the things that he's done, he's one of those that when he's on the Hill, he's obviously an attorney, but you want to talk about someone that can articulate, not only just the questions, but the rebuttal part of it. A lot of people can articulate very well because they have time to prepare their questions, all that. But the way that he's able to rebuttal with it, when someone gives an answer and he just dissects it and like comes right back at them. So again, he helped a lot to uncover the truth regarding Benghazi, regarding the whole email servers. So now that we learned that Trey Gowdy has been named to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
Wow.
So, in his role, he'll be protecting the safety and security of our fellow citizens and the permanent function of the government when it comes to our national security. Trey Gowdy said in a prepared statement, the House Intelligence Committee plays a vital role in protecting Americans both at home and abroad through conducting thorough oversight of our nation's intelligence agencies. So good overhaul, great play. It's going to be interesting to see what he uncovers. We detailed it out here. We pretty much have an understanding of it, but it'll be very interesting to see what he does with that committee.
Absolutely, man. Very interesting indeed, and also it's going to put a lot of this whole Russia hacking BS nonsense to rest, man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to stop. So I'm glad Trey Gowdy's there. He's got the right people there, man. He's got the right people there, so that's a very good thing. And supposedly, also last night I see this is a little off topic, but supposedly the leader of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, was supposedly killed or injured last night. We're waiting on confirmation on that one, buddy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw where
Hmm.
yesterday there were several coordinated attacks with Russia yesterday, so that's a good sign.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And the Western papers are saying, well, it was a U.S.-led coalition. No, it was the U.S. and the Russians actually working together to get stuff done. And behind the back of these politician neocons, the American military has been coordinating with the Russian military to get it done. Thank God for sense and logic. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. No more learning about. Oh, by the way, we bombed, but we killed civilians because the attacks were not coordinated to know exactly where these things are mapped out and where people have moved to. So, heaven forbid that open dialogue is great with another nation and trying to repair that. So, again, kudos. Seeing a lot of great things. This could, between that and the whole particular. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, where Donald Trump's son-in-law, and I always forget his name, that he may be assigned to head up some negotiations in regards to the Middle East with Israel and the Palestinians. So we'll be excited to see where it goes from there.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting. Anything else on your radar, man? I think we have some Brexit updates real quick.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and,
So
and
good.
ISIS in
Yep.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, which do you want to detail out first?
I don't
It's
know,
up
man.
to
Let's
you.
go.
Yeah, no. Yeah, just the Brexit updates, real, pretty quick.
Okay.
So so we all knew that it was going to happen. So pretty much one of the courts in there pretty much had established that what the Supreme Court said that Parliament must have an Article 50 go ahead. So they're pretty much saying that what, even though you voted, even though that that's what the people wanted, you still have to go to the Parliament to decide whether or not you can do the exit or not. Well, that's not going to happen. Some of the people that are leading up the discussion said, we're not going to wait for that to happen. So, again, outside the Supreme Court, Attorney General Jeremy Rice said the government was disappointed, but would comply and do all that is necessary to implement the court's judgment. A Downing Street spokesperson said the British people voted to leave the EU. The government will deliver on the verdict triggering Article 50 as planned by the end of March. Today's ruling does nothing to change that. Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, a leading Leave campaigner, tweeted, Supreme Court has spoken. Now Parliament must deliver the will of the people. We will trigger the Article 50 by the end of March, and that we will be going forward. So they'll try to spin this. You'll see that the MSM try to say, oh, yeah, look, there is not going to be any BRICS. They were opposed to it for so long because we know that this is pretty much the underlining of the break apart of the EU. It's going to happen. It's a movement. They voted for it. So again, I just wanted to kind of map this out because, again, in the MSM, they're going to try telling you a lot of different variations regarding this, but this changes absolutely nothing. Brexit's going to happen.
Right. Absolutely correct, man. It's going to happen, and it's going to spread. Let's see what Italy does next. I mean, there's so many issues in the eurozone that cannot be brushed under the rugs for so much longer. CJ.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Last news item of the day, I guess, guys, is the strange bedfellows. U.S., Saudi Arabia, Al Qaeda, and ISIS interests align in war on Yemen. Unreal. As Yemen remains entrenched in the protracted multi-fronted military conflict led by Saudi Arabia and funded by the United States, socio-political dynamics and economic realities have evolved according to the needs of the competing factions, often to the detriment of civilian populations. Since the Saudi-led coalition began dropping bombs on Yemen, 3.2 million Yemenis have been displaced, more than half the country suffering from food insecurity and malnutrition. As of August, at least 10,000 civilians have been killed. That's 13 civilians a day. It's terrible. Terrible. The war, that's almost as much as Chicago.
Yeah.
The war has taken a particular devastating toll on children, with hundreds of thousands of schools closed. 2 million school-aged Yemenis are being denied an education. And the most recent briefing on Yemen struggling to survive, stories from Yemen's collapsing health system. Save the Children reported that 14.8, about 15 million people, 55% of whom are children, are currently deprived of access to even the most basic health care. Emphasizing the human costs of war and the systematic targeting of vital civilian infrastructure, the Children's Rights warned. Um, Even before the war, tens of thousands of Yemeni children were dying of preventable causes, but now the situation is much worse, and an estimated 1,000 children are dying every week from preventable killers like diarrhea and malnutrition. Absolutely terrible thing, to say the least, man. Absolutely terrible. And this is another thing that's going to stop under Trump. And
Absolutely.
it's going to be real then. This is another globalist plan. It's got to go, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Yemen is starting to look like Syria in terms of the actions of Saudi Arabia, and we all know why the Saudis are doing it. Obviously they're wanting the oil from Yemen, right? So
Yeah, the LNG, the liquid natural gas, they want that action because it's an energy war. They want that, and well, one of London Paul was talking about it a little bit, but I didn't get a chance to highlight it. This what the prince said. This has everything to do with the Al Noor project. They want to get into Yemen. They want to displace as much of the Yemeni people as possible, and they want to take over the country, put in their puppets, and then have a deep water port that's going to be the rival of Dubai. That's what the Saudis are doing. See, Dubai was naturally done. It was a natural fit. The Saudis are trying to make a Dubai for themselves and diversify their economy out of oil by force, and it's a little, too late.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I think that we could definitely maybe spend a lot more time, on this, discussing it and the events leading up to it. But yeah, I thought we should just go ahead and highlight that just so that our listeners get it out there, because again, you're not hearing it anywhere else.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely correct. With that being said, CJ, we're at the end of the broadcast.
Absolutely. Another quick hour has flown by.
Another one, absolutely, bro. With that being said, folks, CJ, why don't you give your shout outs?
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone for listening in. Check out Rogue. I know that a lot of people don't do Facebook and everything, but it's a great. We post our links to our articles and everything there. It's grown quite. We're almost to I think 1,000 followers on Facebook already, and I think that's less than like 2 or 3 months. So it's growing quickly. So we post our links there to our articles just to keep everyone updated. So just like when you subscribe to the YouTube, you get notification that when there's new videos, new live things.
You got to hit that bell thing though, that little bell symbol. Google wants you to hit that, so this way you get notified.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that way you get notified of those things. Well, Facebook will kind of do the same thing. So that way, when there's new articles up at roguemoney.net, we throw those links on social media just to make sure that everyone is aware of it. Great new article up by James, a Russian analyst today. And again, that's all I have. So everyone have a great day.
Awesome. And this is I, the illustrious Silverback, saying goodbye to all of you. And again, if you're having some credit difficulties, you need help, check out myfreedomnow.us. And also, again, follow us on all the social media sites. No, on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at the Rogue Money. That's it. We are over and out. Take it away, CJ.